Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to each and everyone. I am going to discuss the three types of business analytics. So these are the three types of business analytics. Is the descriptive analytics, the predictive analytics, and the prescriptive analytics. So what is descriptive analytics? So broadly speaking, this express what has happened in the past. And usually when people use the word exploratory data analysis, these are the kind of analytics that they are referring to. Now, descriptive analytics, what you're going to spend the majority of your time doing in a data science job, it depends apparently that it's not impossible though, it does depend on your job a lot. But one way or the other, they're tremendously helpful and you're never going to get away from doing them at least to some extent. Any simple analytics that you think of will come under the category of descriptive analytics. So think of stuff like your mean, your median, sums, totals, percent changes. When you're looking retrospectively at historical data, those are all descriptive analytics. The same thing for all your main graphs. So things like bar charts, histograms, box plots, time charts, and the dreaded pie chart. All of those things will fall under the category of descriptive analytics. Again, when you're looking in the past. But wait, there is more. So maybe you want to compare some response between different groups and you're using confidence intervals or some kind of hypothesis test. That's another example of a descriptive analytic. Maybe you're trying to use an unsupervised learning technique to create cluster in your historical data. That's also a descriptive analytic. And then maybe you have a linear or logistic regression model and you want to infer the effect that covariant has on your response, not predict but just make an inference about an effect. That is yet another example of a predictive analytic. So, which brings me to predictive analytics next. Now, this is type of analytics which provides insight into what will happen in the future. So, what is a predictive analytics? So, predictive analytics is a type of analytic which provides insight into what will happen in the future. Compare and contrast with descriptive analytics, which provided insight into the past. Now, it's important to point out human beings will naturally take indications from and make inferences about the future based on what happened in the past. Now, that's completely human nature. But that doesn't make a descriptive analytic a predictive analytic. So, a predictive analytic is something which is specially formulated like forecasting models or classification or regression models. It can also be the climate models or weather models, where the goal is explicitly prediction rather than inference, and they're applied and they're used with that end goal in mind. Let's think about a linear or logistic regression. But first, what is a linear and logistic regression? Linear regression and logistic regression both are machine learning algorithms that are part of supervised learning models. Since both are part of a supervised model, so they make use of labeled data for making predictions. Now, linear regression is used for regression or to predict continuous values, whereas logistic regression can be used both in classification and regression problems. But it is widely used as classification algorithm. Regression models aim to predict values based on independent features. So, in these instances, maybe we know some covariance or information about a subject set, but we don't know some response. Well, these regression techniques can be applied to predict that response, that where predictive analytics shows up most often in statistical methods. But there are also newer branches in spatial forecasting models right now. And then maybe you have time series data, and then you can use ARIMA or the short term of auto-regressive integrated moving average, or other variants on each to create a forecast. So, what is exactly ARIMA model is? So, ARIMA model, short for Auto-Regressive Integrated Moving Average. It is actually a class of models that explains a given time series based on its own past values. That is its own lags and lagged forecast errors. So that equation can be used to forecast future values. Now, if you're looking at machine learning, most supervised learning or deep learning methods are going to fall under the category of predictive analytics as well. Now, keep in mind, it's not impossible to make a simpler forecasting or prediction model. In fact, if you want to make some assumptions and come up with some type of business rules and create forecasts based on those, that's totally fair game, and it falls under the umbrella of predictive analytics. However, the models I described before, they are some of the most common types of predictive analytics because there are standard ways of using all available information and explaining variation in the system. And similarly, have more complicated variation on predictive analytics as well. So take things like weather or climate models. All of these things simulate various factors in the environment and interactions between these factors. And that information is used to create some type of forecast. Not that's well above. Now, that's well above and beyond what most people in data science are going to do as far as predictive analytics is concerned. Last but certainly not the least is the prescriptive analytics. Now, this is the holy grail of analytics. This is definitely the rarest type of analytics, but it definitely has the potential to be the most powerful because it explicitly tells an end user what they should do and generally how this will work. By generating outcomes from a variety of different scenarios, controlling for risk, controlling for unknowns and uncertainty, and telling the user what the best scenario is. And like predictive analytics, it's very easy to look at a descriptive analytic and then get some idea of what you should do. But that doesn't make the descriptive analytic prescriptive by definition. There are fewer examples of prescriptive analytics compared to descriptive or predictive analytics. Just because they are the rarest form of analytic, probably the most common form of prescriptive analytics is the mathematical optimization model. So in one of these, you're typically gonna have some kind of outcomes, some features, some constraints, and then you can put those together into an object function. Then, That object's function can be used to compare different combination, different features, different decisions, whatever it may be. Those comparison can be made and then a best option is selected. Simulation models are also pretty common, especially in industrial like finance or in healthcare industries or anything which supply chain environment. Probably the most common type of simulation is what called a Monte Carlo simulation. So, if you are thinking what is Monte Carlo simulation, according to my research, Monte Carlo simulation are used to model the probability of different outcomes in a process that cannot easily be predicted due to the intervention of random variables. It is a technique used to understand the impact or risk and uncertainty in prediction and forecasting models. This is where you use repeated random sampling to essentially control for unknown stochastic outcomes. So, in doing this, you're controlling for volatility and you're controlling for the risk. There are also called discrete event simulation. And this serve to model real-life processes, as well as the interaction between different action or different events, and this can be very powerful prescriptive analytics as well. Now, once again, with prescriptive analytics, just like with predictive, you can come up with business rules, you can fit statistical distribution for unknown effects, and then you can create a simpler type of prescriptive analytic. These are probably going to carry with them a huge amount of assumptions. But you can do this because for a lot of people, you're just going to lack the know-how or the time to create really advanced simulation or optimization models, weeks or even months to produce. So these terms are usually together in a pipeline, and it's pretty easy to understand why you can really make a prediction about the future unless you understand what happened in the past and have some kind of idea what is happening, what is happened. Similarly, you can really tell somebody what they should do unless you have some kind of idea or best guess about what will happen in the future. However, this is not always a linear path. You're not always going to go from descriptive right to predictive after you're done. Then after you do that, you go to prescriptive. It's often a lot more cyclical and interwoven and connected than that. You may do a little bit of descriptive, then you do a predictive model. You find some new things, go back to descriptive, and then predictive after that. So on and so forth. So in practice, it probably looks a lot more like a cycle rather than a straight pipeline. So those are the 3 types of business analytics. So, thank you for listening and watching this video about the 3 types of analytics. That's all, and have a good and safe day, everyone. Thank you, and this is Miss Noreen Kate Barilla